you are doing is what 1S1 Theatre strives to do here in Canada. Envisioning a world where we can take the stage, centering deaf culture and sign language, and telling compelling stories that burst through the barriers that have separated us and reach audiences in powerful and vibrant ways. Through collaboration and innovative artistry, we aim to redefine theater as a space where diverse voices and experiences are able to unite, inspiring in audiences a sense of connection, resonance, and understanding. But let's be honest, that is much more easily said than done. If it were easy, it would have been done a long time ago. To explore more deeply why this is the case, I posed some questions to Joanne Cripps, a deaf leader and longtime advocate, and Dr. Anita Small, a cross-cultural specialist. They have collaborated for over 30 years, and I asked them how, over all that time, they worked together while navigating power, difference, and oppression. They met on Zoom to respond to some of my questions.
My answer to your question is that it all depends on and relates to the idea of synergy. If both parties share a true understanding of one another, it is easy to work together and the shared work will go well. Official authority and formal leadership is a hearing approach. In deaf-led theater, priority is placed on owning the process, owning the decision-making, and shaping the final outcome from a deaf perspective. The approaches are somewhat different, but the bottom line and what is most important when working together is again that shared synergy, a mutual understanding of each other, and shared respect for one another.
As a hearing person working for many years across deaf and hearing cultures, what I see as the main sources of conflict or misunderstanding between our worlds is primarily when we simply don't understand that being deaf is simply a different way of being and a different way of life. Misunderstandings can occur in communication because language and culture are connected and our languages and our cultures are different. So one example might be if in ASL, for example, straight talk, speaking very directly about what a deaf person sees might be taken by us as hearing people as criticism, not understanding that the person's simply trying to be straightforward and helpful and to the point. Conversely, a deaf person might feel really hurt by me or us as hearing individuals if we speak in a roundabout way, which is how our language works. Spoken English is not quite as direct. And so when we communicate that way, a deaf person might think that we're not being open with them or honest with them, or that they're not, feel that they're not worth our being really straightforward with them. So those kinds of miscommunications can occur. And when we do speak openly about that difference and how we feel, it can actually bring us much closer together because we've shared something very genuine with each other, and we can get beyond it and we can even joke about it.
Deaf-led theater is not about inclusion. It's not. Deaf-led theater provides the world of theater with insight and access to deaf culture, its growth, to deaf ways of being and deaf life, deaf imaginings, and creative force. It's about equity, The mainstream theater community is not gifting anything to, nor is it empowering deaf people. Not at all. Deaf people should be openly welcomed and invited to show all of who they are, their experiences, their life, their representation, their expertise. Deaf-led theater is deaf-centered, rooted in a deaf perspective that takes shape from the beginning of the process. It is not about accessibility. That is something different, as is the concept or idea of inclusion. Deaf-led theater provides an authentic representation of being deaf in the world.
Deaf-led leadership benefits not only deaf artists, but also the entire theater ecosystem. We as hearing audiences and collaborators and institutions get the fullness of who deaf people are and what they can contribute to society as a whole. It also provides a platform through deaf-led theater for meaningful, genuine conversations that get at the heart of our humanity without holding back.
What is significant is the shift in power that happens. Historically, hearing people are in leadership, and if deaf are included, the approach and process follows the hearing majority's rules of behavior and norms. Deaf artists are expected to conform, despite feeling it doesn't align with their way of being. When deaf people lead, it is not about representation, but rather an entire structural change that challenges the status quo of the hearing system and its inherent barriers. The manner in which deaf artists are viewed is also challenged. Again, historically, the hearing majority has talked about deaf artists, professed to do for deaf artists, spoken for deaf artists with the assumption that they know best when including deaf artists, as if hiring an interpreter is sufficient. All of that misses the point entirely. The point is that when deaf people truly lead, the outcome is authentic and tangible.
The message that I would give to hearing theater professionals about why they should champion and prioritize deaf-led initiatives is that what you focus on grows. There's a difference between access and engagement. With hearing-led initiatives, the focus must be on access. And that access is important and it's good. But with deaf-led theater, it has a different starting point. It goes beyond access, where deaf professionals are able to be free to be themselves and to do things their own way. They don't have to expend so much energy on access. There's a richness in that experience of deaf-led theater that is beyond access. And there's a beauty when, as hearing individuals, we're able to be privy to that deaf-led theater and to go beyond our own ways of doing things and to be enriched by them.
What else do I want to say? Here are some important things to keep in mind when you work with others. There may be moments of oppression, when you feel hurt or offended. It might make you want to step away or stop the work altogether. Maybe that is not the case. Maybe they are ignorant and made some mistakes. So if you shut them out, you may also lose some of their talent. Who knows that they would become your best ally in your work, like I have experienced. So if something happens, give them a second chance. Maybe they will change for the better and offer more support.
I want to say that deaf-led theater, deaf expression, and deaf space are not to be perceived as something associated with the idea of inclusion. We do not need to be included in hearing spaces in form of accessibility or information, but rather we need to look at deaf-led theater as a powerful platform to share our way of life with hearing people who can learn a lot from us. They can learn to be more open-minded and accepting of us as deaf people. This is the power you have, so keep going.
I want to add that in the future, I really hope that we could be one society, that deaf leaders not only lead deaf companies or work with deaf people, but lead hearing people. Why shouldn't a deaf artistic director lead a hearing company? I don't know how to do that. I think what we are doing in Tatemanu is to show that this theater can do a lot of things and can go on working, fighting for the deaf society, fighting for deaf artists, fighting for deaf leaders. But you can't just jump from school and into the chair of the artistic director. You have to build from ground. You have to find the young people who want to be producers or just to work on the floor. You have to learn. If you want to lead a theater, a state institution theater, you should learn from the ground. You should go the steps, because there is so much more to this work than just decide who will play and who will direct. Yeah. But wouldn't that be fantastic if there in 10 or 20 years, one of the deaf employees at Teatermanu actually worked on a hearing theater? Because there shouldn't be these boundaries between deaf and hearing people, but they exist. And that's a daily struggle to be together as one. I feel that we are one at Teatermanu. I really do. And that is not because of me, it's because my employees say yes to my knowledge, and say yes to cooperate with me. There has to be two parts. Good luck to you.
At Handspeak, we have come together to reflect on the future. We asked ourselves, where do we see ourselves in 5 years? In 10 years? Where do we see ourselves in 20 years? And a question came up. Should Handspeak ever end? No. Handspeak was created because deaf artists face many barriers. It exists to create opportunities. If in the future the world becomes more equitable and deaf artists can work in well-known hearing companies, it shows that Handspeak is important and that it should continue supporting and providing opportunities for deaf artists. That would be something positive and meaningful. For now, though, we are still at the beginning. We are taking steps, advocating for more work and more collaborations. There is still much work to do. I hope this is a seed for change, a beginning that can grow into something bigger in the world. So yes, let's do it. Deaf Artist Power.
1S1 Theater's mission is to create theater that exists at the intersections of the deaf and hearing worlds, always from a deaf-led perspective. 1S1 was established with the goal of bringing balance in how to tell a story and in whose stories are told. To create theater for a hearing audience is one thing, and to design theater for a deaf audience is something else. But to put both together, that's where the excitement is. 1S1's mission to embrace storytelling, always from a deaf-led perspective, means that we are constantly creating new theatrical languages. would like to acknowledge and thank the Canada Council for the Arts for their support of us at 1S1 Theatre and Why Not Theatre, and our company Exchange and Collaboration. The Canada Council for the Arts Sector Support, Innovation and Development Grant has enabled the creation of this 3-part Salon series. One salon is entitled Unpacking Common Mistakes in Deaf-Hearing Theatre Collaborations. Another explores 1S1 Theatre's deaf-led vision for the future. And then there is an interview with Why Not Theatre about their production, Prince Hamlet. The aim of the series is to generate a dialogue which can increase awareness of deaf-led work among those in the arts sector, and of the importance of giving us, as deaf artists, power, visibility, and space. All of your input, contributions, and experiences were vital to the creation of these conversations, which have become a resource for our community and for all the diverse communities in the sector, to share, foster collaboration, and serve as an inspiration so that together we can flourish and thrive. Thank you. And also, to Why Not Theatre, I want to offer my utmost and most heartfelt gratitude. Thank you for your unwavering support for 1S1 Theatre.